Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we crack open a text, we're looking for a specific lesson, maybe a cool story. But today is different.
Oh, it's very different.
Today we're looking at the exact moment the music stops. We're unpacking Matthew chapter 16.
Right.
And if you've been following the narrative, it's been a highlight reel. Crowds, miracles, walking on water, the summer of the Messiah. But right here, in this chapter, everything pivots. It's the hinge.
It is the hinge of the entire gospel. You see the whole thing swing from this public presentation of a king to the private preparation for the cross.
And to help us navigate this shift, we have a pretty serious stack of sources today.
We do.
We're working with the Berean Standard Bible for the text itself, but we've also pulled in some heavy historical commentaries, and this is the part I'm really excited about, some archaeological notes.
Yeah, and the geography in this chapter isn't just, background scenery.
No.
It's an active participant. You really can't grasp the weight of what Jesus is saying without understanding the dirt he's standing on.
So we've got a lot to cover. Strange political alliances. A disciple who gets promoted to the rock.
And then devoted to Satan in about 10 minutes.
It is a wild ride. So let's just jump in. The chapter opens, verse 1. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him. Now, our sources say this pairing is just shocking.
It's incredibly shocking. I mean, historically, seeing them work together is like seeing two extreme political rivals who despise each other suddenly holding a joint press conference.
So what was the bad blood? Why did they hate each other so much?
Well, the sources break it down like this. The Pharisees were the populists. They were obsessed with the law, oral tradition, and they generally hated the Roman occupation.
Okay, the People's Party. So what about the Sadducees?
They were the complete opposite. They were the elite, the priestly aristocracy who controlled the temple. They were wealthy, they were rationalists, they didn't believe in the resurrection, angels, any of that.
And they collaborated with Rome.
Crucially, yes. They worked with Rome to keep their power. So you've got the anti-Rome legalists and the pro-Rome rationalists.
Who agree on absolutely nothing.
Nothing, except for one thing. Jesus is a threat to the status quo. It's the classic, enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right, and their trap is this demand for a sign from heaven. Now, I have to ask, hasn't he been giving them signs? I mean, feeding thousands, calming a storm? Aren't those signs?
That's the key. In their minds, healing a sick person, that could be trickery or sorcery. When they say sign from heaven, they want something cosmic.
Like what, making the sun stand still?
Exactly, a Joshua moment. They want celestial fireworks so they don't have to rely on faith.
And Jesus, he doesn't give them fireworks. He gives them a weather report.
It's such a brilliant, biting response. He quotes that proverb, when evening comes, you say, it will be fair weather for the sky is red.
Red sky at night, sailor's delight. I didn't know that was biblical.
It's based on the actual meteorology of the Sea of Galilee, but he's not giving a science lecture.
No, he's attacking their discernment.
He's saying, you can read the physical atmosphere to save your own skin, but you're completely illiterate when it comes to the spiritual reality standing right in front of you.
And then he calls them a wicked and adulterous generation.
Which is heavy. In the Old Testament, adultery is the go-to metaphor for idolatry, for being unfaithful to God.
So their demand for a sign is actually proof of their unfaithfulness.
Exactly. And then he says it, none will be given it except the sign of Jonah.
The sign of Jonah. So, the big fish. What's he signaling here?
He's predicting his own death and resurrection. Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights.
And then he came out alive.
And Jesus will be in the tomb for 3 days. He's saying, you want a sign. The only sign you're going to get is the empty tomb.
And if that's not enough for them, nothing will be.
Precisely. So he leaves them. He literally walks away, gets in the boat, which brings us to what I call the lunchbox crisis.
It is such a human moment. They get out on the water and the disciples realize they forgot the bread.
You can just feel the tension. Everyone's hungry, on a boat, and they're all probably giving the side eye to whoever was in charge of the food.
Right, and into that hangry silence, Jesus drops this heavy metaphor. Watch out. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees.
And they completely miss it. They start whispering, oh, he's mad because we forgot the bread.
It's almost funny. He's warning them about spiritual corruption, and they think he's being passive-aggressive about lunch.
But let's unpack that word leaven. Why yeast?
Well, our sources mention that in the ancient world, you didn't buy a packet of yeast. You kept a little piece of fermented sourdough starter.
Exactly. And you'd take that tiny sour piece and hide it in a huge batch of fresh flour. And what
It
happens?
spreads, permeates the whole thing.
It infects the whole loaf. That's the warning. The leaven of the Pharisees is their legalism, their hypocrisy. The leaven of the Sadducees is their rationalism, their skepticism.
He's saying these aren't just wrong opinions.
No, they are infectious mindsets. You let a little bit in and it takes over your entire worldview.
It takes them a minute, but they finally get it. He's not talking about bakery logistics. He's telling them to guard their minds.
Which is the perfect setup for where they go next. They travel about 25 miles north to Caesarea Philippi.
Okay, let's stop on the geography because this
Uh-huh.
is a big deal. Why go there? This was not exactly friendly territory for a Jewish rabbi.
That is an understatement. This place was the headquarters of paganism. It's at the foot of Mount Hermon, a massive rock face, and it was a center for worship of the Greek god Pan.
Pan, the half-man, half-goat god.
The same, a fertility cult. There were shrines carved right into the cliff. There was a cave they called Bottomless. To a devout Jew, this place was spiritually radioactive.
So he marches them into the red light district of idolatry. They're standing there, surrounded by statues of foreign gods.
And that's where he decides to ask the ultimate question. He starts with a survey. Who do people say the Son of Man is?
And the rumors are flying. John the Baptist, Elijah, prophet, basically a great man.
But not the Messiah. So Jesus makes it personal. He turns to them and asks, but what about you? Who do you say I am?
And this is Peter's moment. He steps up and says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God."
And that phrase, Son of the living God, lands so heavily right there. He's surrounded by dead idols made of stone, and he looks at this carpenter and says, no, you are the source of life.
Jesus blesses him for it. He says flesh and blood didn't reveal this to him. It wasn't just logic.
It was a divine revelation.
Yeah.
But then we get to that verse. You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church.
Okay, we have to unpack this. Petros versus Petra.
Right. In the Greek, there's a wordplay. He calls Simon Petros, which means a small stone, a pebble. But then he says, on this Petra I will build my church. And Petra means bedrock, a massive cliff.
So it's a contrast.
It's layered. The bedrock, the Petra, is almost certainly the confession itself, the truth that Jesus is the Messiah. But you can't disconnect it from Peter, the Petros, who was the first stone laid on that foundation.
But wait, the geography. They're standing at the foot of Mount Hermon, a massive cliff face.
Exactly. He's likely gesturing to the landscape. He's standing in front of this rock of paganism and saying, on this rock, the reality of who I am, I'm building something that will crush all of this.
And then he adds, the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I've always heard that as the church being a fortress.
But that's backward. Think about it. Gates are defensive. They don't attack you.
So the church is the one on offense.
Yes. And at Caesarea Philippi, there was that cave they literally called the Gates of Hades,
Yeah.
the doorway to the underworld. Jesus is standing there looking at it and saying, we are going to storm the gates of death itself, and they aren't strong enough to keep us out.
That completely changes the vibe. It's not hold the fort, it's D-Day.
It's an offensive military operation, and that's when he gives Peter the keys of the kingdom.
To bind and loose, what does that mean?
It's legal terminology. Rabbis would bind or forbid and loose or permit. He's giving the apostles the authority to declare the terms of the gospel, to open the doors of the kingdom that the Pharisees were trying to shut.
So you can just imagine the emotional high. Peter is the rock. He's got the keys. They're probably ready to march on Jerusalem. And then verse 21.
It hits like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
The text says, from that time on, and Jesus starts explaining that he's going to Jerusalem to suffer and be killed.
And Peter, he just can't handle it. He pulls Jesus aside and actually rebukes him.
It's mind-boggling, but you have to get in his head. In Peter's theology, Messiah and suffering are total opposites. The Messiah wins, he doesn't die. So Peter thinks he's helping. He says, never, Lord, this shall never happen to you.
He's trying to protect his version of the mission.
His version, glory without the pain.
And Jesus turns on him. He doesn't say, Peter, you don't understand. He says,
Get it behind me, Satan. It's one of the harshest rebukes in the Gospels.
so is he saying Peter is possessed?
No, the word Satan literally means adversary. Jesus is identifying the source of the idea. Remember the temptation in the wilderness. Satan offered Jesus the kingdoms of the world without the cross.
And now Peter is offering the same deal. We can do this the easy way.
Exactly. He's become a stumbling block because his mind is on the things of manpower, comfort, not the things of God.
That's a scary thought. You can have good intentions, but be actively opposing God's plan.
It's the danger of wanting the crown without the cross,
Oh,
which leads right into the final section where Jesus lays out the terms of service.
and it is the worst recruitment pitch ever.
Oh, absolutely.
He says, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me.
And we have so sanitized that phrase, take up your cross. We think it means having a difficult boss or a long commute.
Right.
In the first century, a cross meant one thing: a state-sponsored execution device. If you saw a man carrying a cross, he was a dead man walking. He had no rights, no future. It's a call to a death march.
And deny himself. That's deeper than just skipping dessert.
It's about sovereignty. It means you abdicate the throne of your own life. You are no longer the CEO of your existence. It is total surrender.
Then he gives this economic paradox. Whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it.
It's the upside-down kingdom. If you clutch your life, your comfort, your reputation, you end up hollow. You lose the very thing you're trying to save. But if you pour it out for him, you gain something eternal.
And he follows it with that audit question. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul?
You can win the game of life. You can have it all. But the soul is the only currency that matters in eternity. And once you trade it, you can't buy it back.
Now, before we wrap, we have to touch on verse 28. Jesus says, "Some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom."
This is a tough one for a lot of people.
Right, because critics say, see, he was wrong. The world didn't end.
But that's a superficial reading. You have to look at what happens immediately after this. What's the very next story?
Matthew 17, the Transfiguration.
Exactly. And Matthew makes a point to say, after 6 days, he's connecting them. 3 of the disciples standing right there, Peter, James, and John, go up the mountain and literally see Jesus revealed in his kingdom glory.
They get a preview of the kingdom.
More than a preview. They saw its reality, and then within their lifetime, they saw the resurrection, the ascension, Pentecost. They saw the kingdom break into history with power, just like he promised.
So, looking at the whole chapter, we go from leaders wanting a sign to a disciple making the great confession to the entire definition of Messiah being rewritten right before their eyes.
It forces you to make a choice. You can't just admire Jesus as a good teacher anymore. You have to deal with the cross.
So, what are the takeaways for someone listening to this right now?
I'd say 3 things. First, check your demand for signs. The sign of Jonah, the empty tomb, is enough. If you're waiting for fireworks, you're missing the point.
Okay, what's number 2?
Watch your leaven. Be critical of the influences you let into your head. Cynicism, legalism, negativity. They're like yeast. You have to actively guard your mind.
And the 3rd?
Do the math on your soul. Our culture screams at you to gain the world. Jesus asks you to pause and look at the balance sheet. Are you winning the world but losing yourself? Because that's a bad trade.
It's a heavy question.
And I'll leave you with one final thought from the sources. It all comes back to that question at Caesarea Philippi. Who do people say I am? And then, who do you say I am?
The shift from public opinion to personal conviction.
Exactly. Jesus didn't care what the polls said. And he told Peter that flesh and blood logic, family, tradition couldn't answer that question for him.
It requires a personal revelation.
It does. So the question is still hanging in the air for all of us. It doesn't matter who your pastor says he is or your parents. The only thing that determines your destiny is your answer. Who is he to you?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.